just thank you, Father, again for all who've gathered here. We thank you for the freedom we have in this country to live, Father, and the freedom we have, Father, to voice our opinions. And we just thank you for that, being able to do that. But Lord, we just especially pray for you to also just guide us as a community, Father, Lord, as well, to serve you effectively, and Lord, and do your will in all things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Mr. Wyatt, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will now move to the approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to amend the agenda. I'd like to add a calendar change, 7.7, change our work session to the following week, from August 23rd to August 30th.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion to make that calendar change. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's a second. I believe we have a... All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Wyatt.
I move that we amend the agenda to include a proposal to consider the opportunity for Mr. Huss to attend remotely during the duration of this calendar year for medical reasons.
Okay, thank you. Are you good to make that 7.8?
We'll make that 7.8 if you will.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
That's okay.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. So now can we have an approval for the agenda with the amendments, 7.7 being a calendar change, moving our work session from August the 23rd to August the 30th, and then 7.8 will be a remote participation for a board member as needed for the next calendar year. Are there any other changes to this agenda?
If it's appropriate, Madam Chair, I did have one I failed to bring up. I apologize. In the consent agenda, under 6.04, attachment 3A, had to do with board policy 3200 and money being appropriated for ESSER funds. I was wondering if the board would consider taking that out and letting us have that out separately, since it's a fairly large amount of money. I know it's not controversial, but it's just a large amount of money.
So you're not asking to remove it from the complete
Just keep
agenda,
it.
you're just asking to keep it separate?
Keep it separate from the consent agenda.
Can you give me that number again? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. It's in 6.04, attachment 3A.
What was that policy number? I heard you say it again, Mr.
It references at the top of policy number 3200, and then it goes into distribution of funds using ESSER funds for materials.
Okay, so there's a motion to vote separately on the ESSER funding. Do I have a second?
I second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board.
Yes, sir. So can I please get an approval for the agenda as it stands?
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Is there any, I'm sorry, is there any discussion? I don't want me to leave anything out. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. We will now move to the public comment section of our board meeting. Ms. Rakestraw, would you read our policy?
Be happy to. In accordance with School Board Policy 2310, we will now turn to the public comment section of our meeting. On behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to express our gratitude for your contributions to our discussion of issues facing our board and our schools. Public comments do not necessarily reflect the views of the board. Board members will not respond directly to individuals who address the board during this portion of the meeting, except to request clarification of points made by the presenter. Out of respect for the privacy of our students and staff, discussion of matters involving individual students or personnel will not be permitted. All speakers will be allowed 3 minutes for their comments, and we ask that you please conclude your comments when you hear the second beep. The board will allow up to 1 hour for public comment. In the event that all speakers cannot be heard during the 1 hour designated, the board will allow time following the conclusion of its business for the remaining comments. Thank you to each of you who signed up for public comment today.
Thank you. I don't have the list of names.
We have numbers, Kimberly. We have numbers.
Yeah, number one.
Sure, we'll just start with number 1, that'd be great. You're more organized than I am. I do need you, so if you just have numbers, I need you to state your name and your address. That's it, right?
That's
Just name
all.
and address, okay.
It's Toni, and last name is C-U-O-Z-Z-I, and I'm at 2013 Barrett Springs Road in Rockingham.
Thank you. And you have 3 minutes.
Okay. So tonight I'm going to start by reading a few things that are happening or on the verge of happening in our society. Non-vaccinated people are being banned from working closely with vaccinated people, clarifying 2 separate groups and declaring unvaccinated as undesirable. There are restrictions in schools and universities for non-vaccinated people, preventing them from studying or testing with vaccinated people. Non-vaccinated people should not attend gyms or work out with vaccinated people. Non-vaccinated small business owners are being forced to shut down due to exclusionary rhetoric from the media and government. Freedom of movement of non-vaccinated individuals is being restricted, making it difficult and preventing them from attending public events, movies, concerts, and sporting events. All non-vaccinated people are being forced to wear a mask, making them easily identifiable. Just bear with me now while I move on to my next point. I know you're not allowed to answer me. Everyone here who is protesting or speaking represents their freedom of choice. They all have on yellow bracelets. I need everyone who does not have on a yellow bracelet, if you're able to, I'm not asking you to talk, just raise your right hand for me. You don't have to. But that would look eerily familiar, wouldn't it? You can say that there's no comparison of what's going on in the world today to Nazi Germany, and you're right. However, in the 6 years leading up to it, there were 400 mandates and decrees put into place. You can swap out the word Jewish with non-vaccinated in a good majority of the Nuremberg laws and decrees. Now, I'm going to read to you what I just read to you, how they were originally written. Jews were banned from working with Germans, clarifying 2 separate groups, declaring the Jews as undesirables. Restrictions in schools and universities were in place, but not allowing Jews to study or test with Germans, eventually leading to a total ban of Jews attending at all. Jews were banned from entering health spas, aka gyms. Jewish business owners were forced to close due to exclusionary rhetoric from the media and Third Reich. Freedom of movement of Jewish people was restricted, forbidding them from attending movies, concerts, and other public events. And finally, all Jewish people were forced to wear a yellow armband or star, making them easily identifiable. This is just a handful. The list goes on and on. A state of emergency was declared. They had a fire in their parliament. We had a pandemic. Of all these mandates, they were put into place for the good of the people, the exact wording being used today. During the Nuremberg trials, Hitler's enforcers, the brown shirts, admitted what they did because they were told to do so. It was for the good of the people. Is that how you want to be remembered? I know that there are some of you that believe in freedom of choice, so in closing, when you vote tonight and in the future, keep this in mind, because if you vote for mandates just because you're told to do so and it's for the good of the people, you might as well raise your right hands up and keep them there, because that's how you'll be remembered.
Amen.
Jim Fink is our next speaker.
What a good segue. Good evening, board members, DrSalvo. I appreciate the opportunity to address you all tonight about a vote that will take in a few minutes concerning the masking of our children. One of you told me last week that they don't think this is about politics. But I'm afraid to break it to you, this is all about politics. You will hear from some very passionate people tonight. Some will tell you how we feel, and some will explain our disbelief in the medical community, given all the changes weekly on its guidance. The only thing I want to talk about tonight is just one: choice. When you ran for school board, each of you had different reasons. That was your choice. When you registered to vote, you made a choice to associate with a certain political party. When we voted for a candidate, we made a choice. For some of us to choose to join the armed forces, many of us sacrificed, and some died for that choice. When the time came, you either chose to follow God and select the church, or you didn't. You chose daily to remain in Rockingham County in these great United States. You chose to settle down here, get married, have kids, and be a soccer mom or a ball dad. You chose what you're wearing tonight, and you chose to drive here in a vehicle and the home you live in. You chose your spouse, although I would argue that God blessed me with mine, and I hope He did you as well. You chose whether or not you would have kids, how many, and what their names would be. Daily, you choose directions, where to eat, where to work, to go to work, or to call out after receiving your money from the government, or to socialize in some form, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, or Snapchat. We choose our doctors, our lawyers, our banks, our schools, our churches, all based on the feeling that we have to socialize with like-minded people. You and we chose to be here tonight, since it seems somewhat important that we want to make sure that you know how we feel about being forced to do something that's against our beliefs, values, or common sense. We can make a choice to believe the current public health guidance, but I dare anybody to tell me what it is this week, because I'm confused. We make a choice to believe that school-age kids pose a risk or not, even though the students have the lowest death rate nationally at less than 0.01%, and North Carolina is even lower than that, and that's according to the CDC. We may choose to believe the CDC science brief that RCS hyperlinked, where it states that staff-to-staff transmission is more common than transmission from student to staff, staff to student, or student to student. We choose in consultation with our doctors to make informed decisions to mask, vaccinate, or test, even though now there's absolutely no test that can pick up these new variants. So where does it end? You see, if you haven't figured it out yet, we make daily choices to live our life as we see fit. We don't need to live in a place that tells us how to think, act, or what to do. That's the beauty of the United States that we live in and call home. I ask you for only one thing: give the parents and our children the ability to choose whether we mask our kids or not. Besides, if you're vaccinated, what are you worried about?
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Dean Bakes.
My name's Dean Rakes. I live at 444 Elam Avenue in Eden. I will open up by saying I have 4 children that will be going to Moorhead High School this coming year. 3 of them will be coming from homes to Moorhead, and I will have a senior that will hopefully be graduating from Moorhead. The issue at hand today is an issue of faith. We don't speak of that, but it is. What do you have faith in? Do you have faith in medication, or do you have faith in spiritual aspects? Do you have faith in a non-belief of a God, or faith in God? Do you have faith that this is the betterment of our students, or this is the betterment of our students? See, there's many people who will come up and speak today, and all of them are going to hit, the mark of it's a choice. See, I've seen my faith heal my children. I've seen my children's faith heal themselves. I've seen my son come back from a diagnosis of death. So I have a reason to believe in these things. And I go to the Word of God because it's the most powerful thing that we own. It's in 1 John 4:18. It says, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casteth out fear, because fear hath torment." Do we understand what putting masks on our children is doing to our children? We see school board members, teachers, and parents lashing out against bullying. But now we're going to let a government bully them into mandating what they will have, because they fear. Our children are being tormented and they're hiding behind masks. And I'm not talking about the one that we're talking about mandating that they put on. But now you're going to cover it up even more. When we talk about the suicide percentages going up in teens now, and act like that's not important, we're running from something that has a survival rate of 98.7%. That means very few people are dying of this. And if all of these crazy things that are going on, if we hadn't just been mandated to death, and we sat by and just didn't open our mouths, we would probably already be through this. But there is an agenda behind this, and I hope that educated people can see it, because I'm not all that educated. But I know what is good for my children. I know there's a lot of people that's not here and showing up for their children today, but the ones that are, they're active in their children's lives. They know what is best. And I can tell you, you're educated people, highly educated, more educated than I am. But the one thing I know is I don't know much about science. I can't give you facts. But I can spot a liar from a mile away. And I'm an expert on liars. There is no confusion in the science that's being preached to us on the news media nowadays. I ask you to use your hearts. I ask you to think about the people that are not speaking out, the people that are afraid. I ask you to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Susan Messick. Hey guys, I'm not trying to talk over top of your applauding. I just want to be sure everybody has a chance to get in and speak. Let's go ahead.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Susan Messick and I work at Frye. I have taught there for 13 years now. I'm here to discuss masks and the PCR tests that our governor and the CDC recommend. I've been doing a lot of reading and research. The first thing that I have learned over the last year is that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights have not been suspended due to a virus. When the CDC and the governor or the president mandate something, it is not the law. We do not have to follow it. Please keep that in mind. Let's start with masks. Here are the facts. Viruses are very small and they fit through those masks. They do not work. They do work well at making the people that wear them feel like they're suffocating in them. Also, they cause people, all people, to breathe back the carbon dioxide that is poisonous to all people, including our children. The children that are going to school are still growing their brains. Their masks cause brain cells to die. For over a year, the only place I have worn a mask is to school, the doctor's office, dentist, hospital when I had to have my gallbladder removed this summer. Once I was in my room at the hospital, I didn't wear a mask anymore. When I went to the emergency room, guess how many people were waiting in the emergency room because of COVID? One person. It was an older person that may have had underlying issues. They keep telling us that the numbers are rising. It is not true. I do not know if you've noticed the way people are telling us what to do, flip-flop back and forth constantly. Their plan is to scare people into compliance, and I refuse to live in fear. They want us to take away our rights. I have not had a virus in several years. I take vitamin C, D3, and zinc daily, as the frontline doctors have said to do so. Let's discuss the PCR test. The CDC just came out and said that the test does not work because there are too many false positives. They themselves said they cannot tell the difference between the flu, the COVID, or a Delta variant. And get ready, they're getting ready to give us another variant soon because this one's not scary enough. They can't even prove that there is a Delta variant. So several people that are sick with the flu thought they had COVID. Again, they keep flip-flopping. So how do we know if people died of the flu or COVID? If there is a variant, what we do know about variants is that they are always weaker than the original strand. There are also cures for both the flu and COVID. We know Tamiflu helps the flu, and the FDA and the CDC both covered up the cure for COVID. They allowed people to die that did not have to. They held the cure from the people to get emergency use for the jab.
Yes.
There are people suing them for that reason. Schools never had to close, masks never had to be worn, and the PCR test never had to be used. We need to let people make a choice for themselves. This is our bodies, our choice. If people are still scared, they can wear a mask. It should be up to the individual or the parent. We still have our liberties until the Constitution and the Bill of Rights are gone. No company or district should have a say about our health. It should be up to the individual or the doctors.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Lisa Thomas.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Thomas. I live at 129 Central Court in Eden. I have 3 children, 2 of which have already graduated through the Rockingham County School System. My youngest will be in 4th grade this coming year. She was virtual last year because of the mandatory masks. When it all started, she came home and begged me not to send her back to school. She said she was struggling to breathe. So she will most likely be virtual again next year if masks are mandatory again, which is really unfortunate because for one, she loves school and she's really great in school. For 2, her grades were affected doing school virtually. And for 3, she wasn't very active, and therefore she gained a lot of weight, which isn't good for her health either. And speaking of health, studies have been done, and analysts have found that those masks are more harmful than good. carrying way more bacteria than they could ever prevent. And breathing carbon dioxide all day is not healthy either. So my hope today is that you make mask wearing optional so my daughter and many others can return to school. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Amber Haskin.
Amber Haskin, 115 Battle Creek Court in Reedsville. Earlier today, I forwarded you all a petition signed by over 1,200 Rockingham County Schools staff, parents, and families. I feel I'm speaking on all of their behalf tonight when I ask that you make masks optional for students and staff as we return to school this month. I've been a teacher in this county for 13 years. I can tell you without a doubt last year was the saddest year of my career. If you weren't in a classroom last year, you didn't see kids returning from PE sick because they had to wear masks during gym class. You didn't see students having asthma attacks at recess when it was 90 degrees outside. You didn't see struggling ELL students who couldn't see their teacher's mouths because of a mask. If we cannot appeal to you through personal experiences tonight, I ask that you base your decision off of facts. There is no scientific research that shows masks are effective at preventing the spread of COVID or any communicable disease. Dr. Anthony Fauci stated, quote, "Wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better, but it's not providing the protection they think it is." The World Health Organization states, quote, "The widespread use of masks by healthy people in the community setting is not supported by high quality or direct scientific evidence." The powers that be are going to tell you that our numbers are increasing. They'll tell you that our infection rate climbed from 5.9 to 9.7% last week, with 14 new deaths in our county. What they aren't going to tell you is that of those 14 deaths, one person was 55 years old, the other 13 ranged in ages from 69 to 98, and 4 of them lived in a skilled nursing facility. They're going to tell you that we now have to be even more concerned about the Delta variant. And after that, they're already watching the Lambda variant. Any person who takes basic college science can tell you that every single time a virus mutates, it weakens. Our positive numbers do appear to be increasing because both the PCR and rapid tests have been fully discredited due to the number of false positives they provide, yet we've been cleared to use them through fall of 2021. The CDC currently estimates a COVID survival rate of 99.99% for people younger than 50, which encompasses all of our students and the majority of our staff. This virus is here to stay, so it's time we start acting like it. No more temporary mandates to quote-unquote slow the spread. Let the ones that want to be vaccinated be vaccinated. Let the ones that are more comfortable in a mask wear a mask. But let us all have the choice to decide what is best for ourselves and our children. 51 of North Carolina's 115 school districts have opted to make masks optional for staff and students this year. I urge you to stop listening to these so-called recommendations, to look at the science behind the virus, and make the same choice as these 51 other school districts. Ask yourself this: if these recommendations and mandates were truly about our health and safety, would we be having presidential birthday parties with hundreds of unmasked guests, and would we be allowing tens of thousands of people to cross our borders every day, unvaccinated, untested, and unmasked?
Our next speaker is Susan Barrow. Barrows. I know that.
My name is Susan Barrow. I live at 349 Garden Road. I would like to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to come here and speak tonight. I know that there are a lot of people signed up, so I'm going to try to keep it brief. Whenever citizens are looking for guidance from governing bodies, whether it be federal, state, or local levels, it's important to give the most current and accurate information in order to allow families to make the best decisions for themselves and their children. It's hard to believe that we've been dealing with COVID-19 for over a year and a half now. When the pandemic first hit the United States, there were many more questions than we had answers. And we have much more information to help keep students in fact safe now than we did then. I would first like to encourage any Rockingham County schools faculty or staff that have family members with comorbidities or that are immunocompromised or that are just generally concerned about the virus. If you have not, please voluntarily go get the vaccine. As someone said, not to be political, but if there's one thing that both President Trump and Biden have agreed on is that the vaccine appears to be safe and effective. The CDC has recently announced all authorized COVID-19 vaccines demonstrate to have greater than 89% efficacy against severe COVID-19 that requires hospitalization. This includes consideration of the Delta variant, which have many people concerned right now. In the clinical trials, no participants who have received the COVID-19 vaccines have died of COVID-19. With that being said, children have suffered far worse from the policies caused by the pandemic than from the virus itself. Children in Rockingham County Schools lost nearly a year of full-time in-person instruction, despite the fact that schools all over the world have been shown to be some of the safest places during the pandemic. The cohort of ages 0 to 17 have had the fewest severe cases and deaths of any group of COVID-19, with less than 400 children dying in the United States out of the 600,000 close deaths from the virus. For perspective, more than twice as many children in that age group have died from car accidents during the same amount of time. This is not to take lightly the loss of life, but is meant to illustrate the risk and allow parents to make the best informed decisions for their families. It is time to use common sense and restore some normalcy to the children's school year. I would like to ask the board to not adopt a mask mandate for the children and staff going forward into this year, and let the facts guide you and keep the schools open for in-person full-time instruction. Allow parents to make decisions as to whether or not they would like their children to wear masks and the best way to educate their children going forward. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Katherine Frye.
Hi, my name is Katherine Rose, and dear school board members, for the safety of students and staff, I strongly support option number 2 to require masks and more. I have 2 school-age children who are diagnosed with Cornelia de Long syndrome, which comes with breathing, heart, neurological, and other physical challenges. Together, they have had 15 surgeries and have required ICU stays to ensure their breathing and heart issues were managed. There is overwhelming evidence that the Delta variant virus spreads rapidly between people who are inside and nearby each other, precisely the conditions of our children in classrooms at school. The science is clear. Wearing masks prevents the spread of the virus. And aren't we obligated to do what we can to keep our children and vulnerable community members safe? The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that all students over age 2 wear masks in school regardless of vaccination status. And Governor Roy Cooper urges all K-12 public school students and staff to be masked, even if they are fully vaccinated. And the latest CDC data shows that 98 of 100 of our counties in North Carolina have substantial or high levels of transmission. This means that we should all be continuing to wear masks when we're indoors and out in the public. And as of today, 1,946 people are in the hospital due to coronavirus. The school indoor mask requirement should be reviewed at the end of each academic quarter or when the local metrics deem the safety protocols like masks should be revised. I urge the school board to adopt a policy requiring mask use in school. Wearing masks will safeguard our communities and mitigate the spread of the coronavirus. Thank you for your time and your support.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Jennifer. I'm not going to say this last name right.
And I have some materials for you guys. Do I hand it to you? Or are you scared? Is that okay? It's for your education.
Is it packaged certified or all together?
Y'all can review it together.
Okay.
Make copies. Y'all have the money. I'm Jennifer Benoni. I live at 103 Butler Road, Eden, North Carolina. And I guess you started the clock. First, I would like to apologize to you, the school board and staff, for not being involved until we are at the literal gates of hell on the eschatological timeline. The book that I can't get enough of tells me that if I have a voice, I should use it for those who can't speak. It also teaches me about discernment and how to test the veracity of what I see and hear. I am here to educate you. The news media is purposefully contradicting itself and exposing hypocrisy for a nefarious purpose. It is to divide us, create chaos, and then enslave us. My Jesus is not the author of confusion, but I know who is. Ephesians 5:11 proposes that Christians are to expose evil. So I have brought for you today printed examples of doublespeak and fraud from absolute liars in the mainstream media. There are some very sinister people in high places who are set on the destruction of this country, but I only have 3 minutes to speak. I worked as a registered nurse in charge of Abbott Laboratories' COVID testing site in Alta Vista, Virginia for 5 months. I personally filed the positive asymptomatic results to the Virginia Department of Health on their website, and they are completely misleading. The symptomatic positives had a runny nose and a nice 2 weeks paid vacation that they enjoyed. people with certain beliefs are being demonized and set up to be ostracized from society. For example, the Washington Post stated that those attending the BLM riots grasped the danger of COVID and were motivated to reduce the risk, while those attending Trump rallies deny that there's a danger at all. We now have the media saying this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. This is another deception, as evidenced by the next article in your stack of papers that I have given you. It states, San Francisco hospitals report hundreds of COVID infections among fully vaccinated staff. I have attended pandemic training in hospitals. This was no pandemic. Hospitals were in most cases below capacity during a normal flu season, such as 2020. The same amount of people who get sick and die did so. More children were aborted in the womb during 2020 than there were deaths from COVID. Ask yourselves this question. Why is a vaccine that is supposedly so effective having a breakout in the middle of summer when respiratory viral syndromes don't do that? It is antibody-mediated viral enhancement. It is due to the experimental vaccines that the CDC and the media are lying to you about, as referenced in the statement from Dr. Dan Stock in Indiana. On July 23rd, the VAERS reporting system stopped reporting and updating, and I have included those numbers for you as well, and they are alarming. I would heed you to look at them. Your narrow sources of information are flawed and were actually prophesied in the Bible in 1 Timothy 6, verse 20, as science, falsely so called. We, the parents, decide medical treatment for our children. School was designed to teach English, math, history, and science. My children will not be taught gender equality. My children will not be taught critical race theory. They will not be swabbed. They won't be experimented on medically or psychologically. My children
Your
will
time's
not
up.
be
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Dr. Lindsey Bridges.
Hello, my name is Dr. Lindsey Bridges, and I'm a general surgeon at Annie Penn Hospital in Reedsville. I grew up in the county, and I'm a product of the Rockingham County School system from kindergarten to 12th grade. My family and friends live in the community, and I chose to move back here to work, and my child attends elementary school in this county. As a surgeon, I help patients and families navigate difficult and frightening medical conditions, and I'm proud to be able to help heal and guide patients on a daily basis. I'm here today to advocate for option 2, mandating masking for all staff and students. There are 2 reasons that come to mind immediately. Number 1, fewer school and classroom disruptions or closures. And number 2, the new Delta variant, which is spreading in the community. With optional masking, students who are exposed and are not masked will be required to quarantine for 7 to 14 days pending symptoms and testing, which could potentially close classrooms and schools. This is the law and cannot be circumvented. Masks work mostly to prevent the infected person from spreading the virus to others and offer some protection to the exposed, but masks work best when both parties wear them appropriately. Optional masking is not a safe alternative. With optional masking, the number of disruptions and missed days for students will be higher. Both the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics recommend a layered approach to reducing risk for students and community, including vaccination for eligible parties, which does not include children under 12, and the 3 Ws, making masks mandatory for all in schools. The Delta variant is more contagious and is spreading in the country and state. The number of cases in children across the country are rising, and although severe cases, yes, are rare and hospitalizations are rare and deaths are rare, they are occurring more with the Delta variant, and long-haul COVID symptoms can also occur. In my opinion, the death of one child is too many, and the suffering of families from any death or disability caused by this disease is devastating and wide-reaching, as it affects emotional, mental, and physical health, but also causes financial and social burdens that cannot be fully appreciated. The vision of the Rockingham County Schools, per the website, is to empower children to be lifelong learners and to be equipped to contribute to a changing and complex society by providing a safe, dynamic, nurturing, and innovative learning environment. We are all lifelong learners, and Rockingham County Schools have, to this point, practiced their vision by providing safe and innovative learning opportunities for children, and in turn have helped to make the community safer. No one can predict the upcoming weeks or how the Delta surge will play out, but we can use every tool in our arsenal to protect the community and our students. That includes vaccinations and the 3 Ws, which includes masking indoors. We are in this together, so let's all do our part and I appreciate your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Boo!
Our next speaker is Kelly Toni.
Freedom tonight.
You need to stop.
I know that there are rules of conduct here that I would love to be enforced while I'm speaking. I know on your website there are, I know you all can hear that.
Start her clock.
Yeah,
Well,
get her.
yeah,
Oh, how's her clock not
We
running?
do have 3 minutes. If everybody could be respectful of each other, we would greatly appreciate it. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Toni. I live at 193 Winsome Laurel Lane. I am an elementary school teacher in this county. I have been for a lot of years. I've taught some of your children. I am also the Rockingham County Association of Educators Vice President. And I am not a fan of wearing a mask. I don't like the way my glasses fog up. I don't like the way I have to speak louder to my students. But none of you that have come up here yet have mentioned the fact that every kid in public schools has the choice and the right to come to my classroom and be there and be taught in person. It is clear that in option 2, please stop.
Yeah, could you please let us know what today?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr. Osley.
everybody has their opinion, and I think the audience should be respectful of each other regardless of what you say.
Thank you.
Amen.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Isley. I don't want my students to be hiding behind a mask, and I don't want to be either, and that's not what I'm doing. You all pushed for us to come back to school in person, and it was the right choice. Mr. Wyatt, you didn't want grandparents to be burdened with teaching their grandchildren at home through Zoom, and I was with you. Mr. Isley, you wanted us to get back before we could even load them on the buses. We didn't even have a bus schedule, but we needed to. And clearly, in option 2, that's not what will happen. If we're infected, students go home. If there is an infection, legally, they have to go home. I don't want that. This is not about religion and politics. This is about keeping our students in our classrooms. I will do anything. I'll wear 3 masks if you want me to, but that is what's right for our kids. And you don't have I don't have the doctor expertise, but I have the teaching expertise. And you all know you're always invited to my classroom, and you will see the students learning in the room. None of you could stand behind me at Zoom and think that they were learning in the best way. Please vote for option 2, not because you want to slap a cloth on a kid's face, but because you want us to learn in person. I beg you to. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Kristy Heart. It's okay, I mess it up every month. Twice a month, actually. Go right ahead.
Okay. My name is Kristy Heart, and I live on Wilson Street in Lindsey. I just have a few things to say. When the pandemic first began, the lack of knowledge about COVID-19 justified extra precautionary measures. That excuse has now vanished. Months ago, it became clear that this virus is less dangerous to children than the flu. Children are resilient. Masks.
If you don't mind holding that, they can't hear you.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Can I start over?
Just pick up.
Okay. Masks have proven to provide some protection for high-risk adults and crowds in an indoor setting. Masks have also proven to be harmful and cruel to children, mentally, physically, and psychologically. We as parents, grandparents, American citizens, and school administrators are supposed to ease fears in children, not instill fear. Mask wearing makes it difficult for young children to develop linguistic skills. It prevents children with hearing impairments from lip reading. It causes confusion and frustration for the students who may already be lacking in the tools needed to advance educationally as well as socially. 18,000 parents who chose to report side effects to researchers reported headaches, difficulty concentrating, drowsiness, fatigue, unhappiness, impaired learning, and bronchial infections due to breathing in their own carbon dioxide. Masks are breeding grounds for infections from bacteria, mold, and fungi, which cannot be good for anyone's health, especially our children. Parents in America are responsible for their children until the age of 18, in some states 16. These same parents are responsible for the health and well-being of their children. Children build immunity throughout their school years that naturally resist viruses and influenzas. No child is or ever will be exempt from germs. By placing children in a masked environment, it only weakens their immune system.
Right.
It is our responsibility and job to provide a safe, caring, loving, learning environment for our children at home and school. And school started only to be an extension of that. We cannot place our children in a bubble and expect them to thrive. It takes a combination of good and bad germs to remain healthy. If you have children, you already know how much your actions mean. It is a difficult time to be a parent. It's even more difficult to be a child. I urge each and every one of you to continue to stand for our children and remember that the CDC trials are
Thank you
and
for your
still
comments.
are underway.
Thank you for your comments. I'm sorry to have to interrupt y'all when you're not done. Our next speaker is Rick Goodman. Is he not here?
He is not here.
Okay, so then we will move right on to Dr. Ferguson.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. John Ferguson. In my 34 years in this county, I live in 1602 Richardson Drive in Reidsville, North Carolina. In my 34 years in this county, I've delivered several thousand of the children and young adults that are in this county. Some are in schools, some are the concerned parents here tonight. I come in love and concern for the people here in this community at large, and I have two messages. One, get immunized, please. Do it for those you care about. Do it for the kids that you want to get out of masks. The 3 W's still matter, particularly in public settings. Wearing the masks, which are not perfect, washing your hands, which helps, and waiting apart 6 feet. Regarding choice, the 800-pound gorilla in this community is our choice of a low immunization rate of 39%. That's 39% of our people have chosen to believe that they can make themselves healthier. The goal is village immunity, which is usually quoted as about 85%, which will keep it from spreading. And we have more options. With 85% immunization, this would be a different conversation tonight. This board will make its best faith effort to serve this community. I want no child to have the experience of coming to school, mask or no mask, as decided by this board, and then coming home to watch an unvaccinated loved one, probably older like this old goat, and then watch them suffer a difficult or deadly illness from COVID and wonder if they were the carrier and could have done more to protect that older relative. No child should have that burden. Many of you recall hearing that a bug was going through the school thinking, oh heavens, better get ready for the family to get sick. schools can be spreader sites. But last year they weren't because the schools played with the rules. They did the hard things, the right things. It's not time to get rid of the W rules in schools. The Delta COVID will both infect the immunized and the not immunized. It doesn't seem to be killing the hospital, it doesn't seem to be killing the ones that had their shots. In Houston, Texas, 98% of the hospitalizations are in unvaccinated people this year and 100% of their deaths. That's a big gorilla. At Cone Health, for whom I work, and 88% of the COVID-related hospitalizations this year are in unvaccinated. 93% of the COVID-related deaths are in unvaccinated. As of July 7th, we had 7 COVID patients in the whole Cone system. As of 8 a.m. today, we have 88, so things are already starting to happen. Let's organize and get together. A 5 ml vial this big will immunize 10 people whose kids can then be safer. So the spreading will coincide with the time, the spreading will coincide this fall with the timing of these decisions. Let's organize and get together. Everyone above age 12 is eligible for immunization. We're all tired of this darn virus. The virus isn't tired. Let's ease the burden on our children. Let's do our part as a village and get immunized. I want to
Thank you for your comments.
My mask and my shot, they comfort me.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Katherine Frye. 14's here. It's Rick Goodman.
I just wanted to bring one called Freedom Over Fear. Hey, I'm Rick Goodman. I live at 7326 Highway 700, Rockingham. This mask, I don't know what to do about it, but I tell you what my grandsons are doing about it. It's uncomfortable, it's unhygienic, and it compromises their interactions. I got two little ones, and they come home and their nose is running and they're coughing and they say, "Papa, I don't want to wear this mask. It gives me a headache." What am I going to do? I can't say no. And this mask thing, what I don't understand is, you want everybody to wear a mask, and the government wants us to wear a mask, but he's importing people in here that is infected. I mean, it don't make sense to me. You can't stop it. American people could stop it. If he's going to bring them in, what's the sense of it?
Amen.
You know, I mean, it's like you're robbing one person to pay the other. It just, I don't, and this, Biden says, he says that the masks stop infection. They don't. They stop death and they stop stays in the hospital. That's been proven. These masks does not work. They're dirty. You know, some of these people that are making these decisions haven't got kids. Pull that mask off and look in the inside of that mask when the kid comes home from school.
Yes.
It's wet, it's dirty. My grandson, it's wet. He said, "Papa, this thing hurts." I said, "I can't do nothing with what they say." I just don't want nobody to have control over what I do and what I know what's best for my grandsons.
Yes.
You know, I mean, the CDC makes one thing. I mean, 6 months ago, she was a professor at law school. Now she's a big shot at the CDC. One person put her in there, not the rest of us. And here's another thing I don't understand. Texas. I don't want to get on, but they let 7,000 people into one town in Texas. All of them were infected. The next week, 2 weeks later, they let 1,500 in, were infected. Here's an example. Here's what I don't understand. That town has got a population of 141,000 people. That's 5% of the people that's been infected because they just let them in. And we don't know where they're going. The government's not telling us where they're going. They're putting them on buses and planes and saying, "Here it is. Go for where you want to go." That don't make sense. We can't stop something that he's forcing. He's bringing this on us.
Thank you so much for your comments, Mr. Goodman.
Yeah.
Katherine Frye.
Good evening or afternoon. Katherine Frye. Thank you for my time for speaking. I'm here today to stand up for what I and many others feel and believe. I've sat in the shadows for too long. Me speaking to you today may fall on deaf ears, but it needs to be said. We're told the masks protect us, but many times they harm us psychologically and physically. People with asthma struggle to breathe and feel as if they are being suffocated. I know, because I'm one of those people. People who have claustrophobia struggle having something containing them in a small item. It causes people's anxiety to flare up and make it worse. Masks pose a distraction to small children when they should be focused on learning. I have a 5-year-old sister and a 5-year-old god sister going into kindergarten. I want them to have the best learning experience possible. I want them to learn faces and not eyes. I want them to look at me and say that they enjoyed kindergarten. I don't want to hear that they got in trouble because they wouldn't keep their mask on, when they don't even understand why they have to wear it. My 6-year-old cousin is now going into 1st grade. His experience in kindergarten is one I dislike. He spent it behind a computer or in a mask. I wonder what his learning experience, and many others like him, would have been like if they hadn't had to wear a mask. Last time I checked, we still live in America, a place of rights and freedoms. We and parents should have the freedom to choose whether or not we wear a mask. Thank you for my time.
Our next speaker is Hannah Hammond.
Can you hear?
Yes, ma'am.
My name's Hannah Hammond, and I'm on 242 Jackson Street, Eden, North Carolina. I stand against the mask mandate, the vaccine mandate, and everything about COVID-19. There is much evidence that the masks are ineffective at best and harmful at worst. The NIH report from April 2015 found that 96% of those masked still got sick or had contact with the particles when exposed to a controlled virus. Another finding was reported that most of the blue and gray cloth masks contain graphene, a microparticle similar to asbestos. Some of the cheaper masks even contain fiberglass. Health Canada warned their nation about this, stating that extended mask use could cause lung damage and even cancer. Not to mention the mental health effects of masks, such as the rise in depression and suicide rates among children. It can also stunt the critical social and mental development of school-age children due to the lack of facial recognition. This false solution of masks and vaccines are standing on a foundation of lies, a false chaos. According to the official VAERS database, thousands and thousands of kids have died due to the vaccine, some as young as 1 and 2 years old. Some experts have claimed that half of the child population has already had COVID in the U.S. and is immune to it already, naturally. And since the whole pandemic began, everyone has been diagnosed using the PCR test, which one PCR test just recently has been recalled due to false results and not being able to tell the difference between influenza, colds, and COVID. And one study published in the Oxford Academic found that PCR tests have a 97% false positive rate because they are made so sensitive as to include dead viruses in the body that cannot cause or transmit the disease. Besides, the child survival rate for COVID-19 is 99.74% and in some studies have found to be even higher. There are also some strange coincidences, like how Bill Gates in a TED Talk 6 years ago excitedly discussed a future viral pandemic greater than Ebola globalized, wanting to vaccinate the whole world and reduce the population by at least 10% due to these vaccines. And Event 201, where global elite practiced a pandemic just 1 month before COVID was discovered and 5 months before being officially declared a pandemic. Why would they lie to us? Because they are of their father the devil. Ephesians 6 states that we're in a spiritual warfare. This is more than just physical. 2 Corinthians 11 states that Satan and his ministers disguised as angels of light. That's exactly what you're seeing with this COVID-19 agenda and the false solution. They don't care about our safety. They want us and our children to die, physically and spiritually. The solution isn't a mask or a vaccine or anything in the world. The solution is Christ Jesus alone. He is our only hope, the Son of God, who bled and died for our sins and rose again and lives forever. Repent and believe the gospel. Reject the lies and turn to the truth. And please pray for our enemies as well, that they will be saved and turn from this evil stuff. For your sake, for the children's sake, and most importantly, for the glory of the true Most High God.
Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Sorry Sunderland.
Good evening. Full transparency, my name is Sarah Sunderland, live at 129 Melwood Road in Eden. Full transparency, I actually do not have a child currently in the public school system. We made the choice to homeschool several years ago, and we continue to do so today. But I do feel that the same mentality of it takes a village, and I have a lot of children that belong to friends and family that continue to attend public schools, so that's why I'm here tonight. And to jump right in, I don't feel that school at its core is what it should be anymore. It is slowly becoming twisted into something that resembles more of a factory than an education system. It's being used as a tool by an overstepping government to try and create and conform these good little citizens for a society that it ultimately wishes to have absolute control over. These children are here to learn, to truly be educated by the wonderful and devoted teachers that put so much of their time and energy into doing so. However, when all of that is tainted with fear, we're only going to be leading them down a dangerous path to a very bleak future. The school system boasts having a zero-tolerance policy for bullying, yet it continues to allow the government to bully it and continuously into getting what it wants. And the descent to tyranny is not always quick and violent. It can be slow and sugar-coated with misleading coercions, false promises, but make no mistake that in reality the end will be cruel and harsh. Fear is not always a bad thing. It is when it is a tactic to be used to force people, especially children, to conform to a standard or policy that many adults don't agree with or even follow. Fear can be the healthy dose of respect needed to allow the right thing to prevail. So while we are still a free country for the moment, and if we wish to remain that way, we need to fear the consequences of not pushing back and not fighting for our children and their rights and freedoms while they are still not able to do it all themselves. We need to be an example of questioning authority in the right way with respect, peaceful protest, and while still holding strong to our truths. If we teach them to only say yes to everything presented to them, we are teaching them to not think for themselves or to speak out for the justice of others. We do not want to teach them disrespect, but we also don't want them to disrespect themselves or to tolerate it. And there is a big misconception of what tolerance is. It is not the blind acceptance and support of what others believe regardless of our own beliefs. Rather, it is being able to disagree with others while still respecting their choice to do so, while still showing kindness and not condemnation. We can coexist, and the choice to wear a mask for some is one I can completely tolerate, and would expect the same courtesy for the choice not to. And to force the choices of some onto thousands of others is not tolerance. It is the beginning of tyranny. And we as a community agree that we will have zero tolerance for tyranny. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your comment. Our next speaker is Guy Williams.
Good evening, y'all. You know, y'all time. I want to appreciate everything everybody said here tonight. Respect their right to say it. We've heard mask, mask, mask ever since this pestilence has come here in the States. A mask, an N95 mask, properly worn, properly removed, has a 95.5 chance of the person wearing it not to catch the virus that the person is exposed to. Other than that, they're useless. Useless, no matter what you say, they're useless. Now, as far as children go, as you study history, children always pay the price with our grown-ups' ignorance. They always have. Back in biblical days, they put children in a statue red hot and burn them up. Down there today on that border right now, children are coming in and being sexually abused all over this nation. Right now, little babies that had no voice are being aborted. Aborted, they had no voice. The governor in Virginia said it would take a child, wrap it in a blanket so it would be warm, the mother and the doctor would decide whether to kill him or not. The little baby's laying in on a table. Just the other day, in a college in this United States, in Pittsburgh, took the kidneys of a newborn black baby while it was alive. No anesthesia, because they said it was science. They wanted a living tissue with blood growing for it, and they needed that for science. This vaccine has got aborted babies' parts in it. See, now the truth of the vaccines are out there. They're out there. You can get the truth. You can believe what you want to, but the truth of things is out there. And you can get it. It's worldly. We can see it. What's going on over the world. So don't say that you don't know things, because you can find out. If school, I failed 2 grades. I quit and I went to work. You know what I'm saying? I went to work. All right? I didn't have nobody telling me to wear a mask or nothing else, or anything. When the Hong Kong flu come through, I was young. Nothing shut down. If you caught it, you got something for it. This pestilence now, there is medicine that you can give a person for 15 days when they're first diagnosed with it, and they're cured. Cured. They don't have it no more. It ain't no antibodies. It cures them from it. But it's cheap. They don't want it given out. There's no money involved. The Lord says the root of love of money is the root of evil. And that's the reason this thing is going on the way it's going on. Y'all just look at things the way it is. I mean, they.
So, guys, we have reached the 1 hour mark for our board meeting. We have some business to do, and we will go forward with that business, and we're going to pause our public comments for now, go forward with our business meeting, and then we will come back and we will hear every person that's here to speak. But we do have that part. Yes, sir.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
just
sir.
let the public know that is part of our policy. We're not trying to stop anybody midway. It's just our policy.
Yes, sir, thank you. That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. And Ms. Rakestraw explained that when she read that policy before we were started. So I just want to be sure everybody's clear on that. We're not trying to keep you from having a voice. We're just going to move forward with this board meeting. Our business portion is relatively short, and we will be right back with you.
Could you answer one question?
I will answer one question.
Did we have 1 hour for public speaking, or are we 1 hour into the meeting? I thought we were having 1 hour for public speaking, and I don't think we started the public speaking at that time.
It's 7:04. Do y'all want to go ahead and hear a couple of more people? I was just looking at the clock. What time did we start? 6:10? Okay, so then let's go for it. Are y'all good if we add a couple more minutes to it since I was yakking? Okay, so let's say we're going to speak until, since we've had some disruption and whatever, let's go to 7. Is everybody okay if we go to 7:15? Okay, so let's do that. So our next speaker is Delane Akers.
Board. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm using my God-given voice to speak truth and ask that you will consider what is being said. We were biblically warned that there will be terrible times during the last days. Corruption in government and confusion will ensue. Mask and vaccine orders are politically driven, and with all due respect, you were not elected to be in a political position. You were elected to advocate for the children of Rockingham County. I do not care about your political views. I do very much care about the health and well-being of my children and all of our children. The governor of North Carolina has given the mask option to each district. Accurate information on COVID-19 is hard to find. Many doctors and health professionals don't even always know where to find true science data for COVID-19. We are limited in what is shared with us. Scientific facts are being controlled, and we are limited to what we have access to. Tonight's issue may seem confusing, and I understand that the Health and Human Services have different scenarios of potential school shutdowns after exposure to the virus based on if the school district mandates masks or not. That creates confusion for the ones voting. When confused, it is okay to step back and ask yourself, why am I confused? Am I confused because I don't understand? Or am I confused because the issue is created to push me in a certain direction? God is not the author of chaos and confusion, but rather the Prince of Peace. Let's look at other facts too. The flu has been more deadly than the COVID-19 virus. They are both viruses. Viruses have not shut us down in the past. Never have we masked for the flu season. The CDC recently admitted that they cannot accurately differentiate between the flu and COVID-19. I'm skipping to the most important part now. If a child can elect to have an abortion with only needing a parental consent, that's all they have to have now, is for me to say, sure, you can kill, you can murder an unborn child. And we are actually sitting in a room tonight where we are voting on whether I have the choice to mask my child in school or not.
Yes.
God help us. God help us in this evil, corrupt nation.
Amen.
We need to get our eyes on the Lord.
Yes.
And use critical thinking in our decision making. If we haven't shut down for the flu and the CDC says we cannot differentiate, what are we doing?
For your comment.
Yes.
Our next speaker is Michael Harvey.
My name is Michael Harvey, 267 Heritage Road, East. I'm just coming up here to meet little Johnny today. You can't see how little Johnny's doing because his face is covered. Little Johnny's got allergies. He's coughing and stuff. Johnny was touching his desk, teacher. Johnny was touching his desk, he was coughing. They don't know he's got allergies. They don't know what his problem might be. But little Johnny's gonna have a problem because when little Johnny goes to, we gotta get lunch today, okay, nobody's gonna sit with little Johnny. Nobody's gonna sit with little Johnny. It's gonna be little Johnny, little Jennifer, little anybody. I did have COVID myself, I'm sure it was COVID. I had bad headaches, I was sick for about 6 days. I recovered, okay, I think. Hadn't had any symptoms, hadn't had any problems after that. The time I got COVID was right around Thanksgiving, right after Thanksgiving, but we had a family gathering, probably 15 people. Everybody got COVID. My son had had COVID probably 3 or 4 weeks before that. Nobody in my family caught COVID. We don't know how easy this virus is spread, I don't think. In some cases it may spread easy. Sometimes it may not, I don't know. But I just want to be a voice for my grandson who's starting school this year. He's starting kindergarten, and I don't think he should have to wear a mask. That's all I think.
Thank you so much for your comments. Our next speaker is Alicia Harris.
Hi, I'm Alicia Harris. I live on 1520 Pawpaw Road, and I am not a public speaker, so if I get nervous, I apologize. I'm a mother of 4 children, 3 of which attend Rockingham County Schools. We love Rockingham County Schools and have always attended school here. My children will be in 4th grade, 2nd grade, and kindergarten. I'm here because I need to express my concern of the face mask requirement for the upcoming school year. I am strongly against students being forced to wear a face mask at school.
Yes.
Face masks should be optional. These masks have been necessary the last year because of COVID, but this year the vaccine is available to anyone 12 years or older who would like it. There is no shortage of the vaccine. First, these masks inhibit students' abilities to communicate with teachers, their fellow students, and the rest of the school personnel.
I feel strongly that facial expressions made with a person's mouth and nose need to be seen, especially children's facial expressions. Expressions contain information on how to communicate with another person and how that person is feeling. This is especially important for children. Children learn many things at school. In my opinion, one of the most important things they learn at school is communication with other people. Sometimes what someone is saying and what they are feeling do not match. Facial expressions let another person know how to communicate and respond to another person. Facial expressions are an important way for children to communicate with each other and their teachers. Face masks prevent important expressions from being seen. Face masks affect learning and communication with others. Second, I have talked and interviewed many teachers about the cleanliness of masks, especially elementary age children. They all say the same. The masks are not kept clean, the masks are dirty, parents don't wash the masks, students do not wear them properly, they do not keep them over their nose. It's difficult for students to wear the mask properly, they need constant reminders. It is physically impossible to teach foundations, which is important for kindergarten and first grade. Face masks are a huge distraction. Most of the time, the masks are not kept clean and masks are not worn effectively. Third, if a parent is uncomfortable with masks being optional, there is a virtual academy for students. Parents who do not want their children around students who are not wearing masks can have their children attend the virtual academy. There are so many reasons for unmasking our children, but I'll end with my most important. My children have started to dislike school solely because of masks. My children will always exceed expectations for their grade levels, and are always praised for their good behavior, even in the last year, but masks have made them strongly hate going to school. They say they cannot breathe well, they cannot see well, and they cannot understand what their teachers are saying.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker, we've got 2 minutes. Our next speaker is Gabriel Patterson.
Good evening, my name is Gabriel Patterson, and I want to begin by saying I'm a proud Republican and I'm a proud conservative. I believe that a government is powerful enough to take everything away, is powerful enough to give you everything, is more powerful enough to take everything away. But I want to preface that by saying I'm not here to talk about option 1 or option 2. I'm going to urge the board today that no matter which option you choose, we do whatever we can to make sure that kids stay in the classroom, because virtual learning is not doing it for these kids. I was part of virtual learning last year. I didn't learn anything. It was not good. We need to make sure that no matter what, that virtual learning is not in the picture. We need in-person teaching. Thank you.
Thank you for taking time to listen to me. My name is Sarah Shear, and tonight I'm here as a warrior in Christ, as a concerned mother, and to set an example for my daughter who is here with me tonight. And to be a voice for many family members, friends, healthcare professionals, teachers, staff, administrators, and for those who cannot be here for various reasons. Every single child across the country deserves the right to a healthy education. It's embarrassing to even have this debate considering we live in the greatest country in the world where we have freedoms.
Yes.
Freedom is why I'm here tonight. Freedom of choice for the mask and the vaccine. We also have the right to what, who, and where we educate our children, including homeschooling. I have the video clip from Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, but because only 3 minutes I cannot begin to scratch the surface and could talk for hours. I'm not permitted to play the video, so I'll pull a few important parts because he said it best. Begin quotes. Individual liberty is how we need to navigate this virus. Should be left up to individuals whether or not to enter a building with a mask or take the vaccine. It is not my job as an elected official to convince anyone to take the vaccine, coerce anyone to take the vaccine, or dissuade anyone from the vaccine. My job is to give you the information you need to make that informed decision along with your health care provider, and then make sure if you want the vaccine, you can get the vaccine no matter who you are. I believe we're headed in the wrong direction in many areas with mandates and masks and vaccines. End quote. I pray you all make the best decision for our country and that for our county and country, and that is to have the freedom of choice. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So now we will move on to the remainder of our meeting. Item 5.2 is board comments. Does anybody want to make any comments, or would you like to move on to the regular? I don't want to hold you back. Does anybody have any comments?
Just like I said, thank everybody for coming out, and thank you everybody for the respect that they showed, the respect that they showed in keeping it timely. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir. Anybody else?
I'd like to thank Angela Martin today. She has worked diligently trying to get our Spanish immersion teachers placed within our county, and it's been remarkable how Rockingham County has stepped up and worked with these teachers to provide what they needed today. So, Angela, I don't know if you're here tonight, but we really appreciate what you did.
I just appreciate everybody's comments too. And it's great that we live in a country where we can all voice our opinions respectfully, so I do appreciate it. I learned a lot tonight, y'all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for everybody being here, and thank you for those of you who aren't here but you sent us emails. We appreciate your input as well. So we will move now to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I so move.
Do I have a second? Is there any discussion?
We separated 3A.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Yes, but you wanted that put,
Yes, it says 7.9.
right? So is there any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. We have a motion and a second, so.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. So we will now move right on to our action items, and I think I'm supposed to be driving the screen for our audience. Get that pulled up. We will now move to the RCS, to what we're all here for. Option 1 or 2.
That's right. Well, good evening, Madam Chair, Board of Education, and Dr. Shotwell. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I want to first and foremost thank each of you for your time on Friday, July 30th. We were able to review the draft of the plan, and I know many of you have spent, all of you have spent a lot of time reviewing that and carefully considering all of our parents and all of the information that you have been receiving over the past couple weeks. After we were able to meet, we did post that on board docs on August the 3rd, and then we made that available to our public so that everyone could see that plan. And that's really important because that helps everybody, provide us information too about how they feel about that plan. Also, we made alert now calls, shared it on social media, and just wanted to remind everybody we wanted to make sure to provide that opportunity to our public as well. And I just want to say personally to our public and to individuals who contacted me and emailed me to thank you to each of them for sharing their thoughts and their concerns and their comments. It's very helpful to get that parent voice and that community voice. It's very appreciated. So at this time, you've had lots of time to review it, lots of time to hear a lot of information, to look at all of the information and the data. And so with that, we just have those two options available, option 1 and option 2, to review tonight, and then for you to make your board consideration. After that, for option 1 or option 2, which is listed in our plan, after that, once that choice is made, we will then look at a recommendation to vote on the whole plan.
Madam Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make an amendment to option 1 to read, masks are recommended but not required.
Okay. So there's an amendment to option 1. Dr. Ellis, could you tell me so that I could pull this up for our audience so they can see it?
Oh,
Where is it in
sure.
this?
You're right there at option 2. If you go up to, she said the recommendation.
For option 1.
On option 1 to change. So if you just scroll up just a little bit more to the yellow box, that's option 1.
Other way.
Oh, yeah, other way.
Sorry.
I know, it's right there. You go.
There you go.
There's option 1.
Ms. Austin, would you just read that one more time for them to write down?
I would like to make an amendment to option 1 to read, masks are recommended but not required.
All right. I'll second that.
Guys, we have a motion and a second for option 1 that masks will be recommended but not required. Is there any discussion? No discussion? So-
That is simply an amendment to option 1, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion?
So that recommendation is, it's a recommendation, so it's not a requirement. It is a recommendation in option 1. So option 1 still has choice built into it. And I think one of the things that we heard, I think it's great that so many people spoke, but I think also it's one thing that we did hear, that the quarantine is something that is going to, could potentially impact our classrooms and impact our students, and that would interrupt learning. And so I think that's something that we at least need to acknowledge, because the quarantine is not something that we are imposing as a school system. I wish we didn't have to agree to it. I wish we didn't have to do it. But because I do think it creates a sticky wicket for us in our classrooms. But with that said, it still provides that option for parents to make those decisions.
So can I make a comment?
Sure.
Could you speak to us about bus transportation, how that fits into this? And could we also say that option 1 is not making our teachers be police for masks?
Right, so let me speak to the bus part
Yes,
component
ma'am.
first, and thank you for bringing that up. We did just find out some information from our North Carolina Department of Public Instruction. Mr. Cox is our Director of Transportation, and he just received some information today and clarity that the CDC order does have authority over us for masks for the bus. So initially, we thought that wasn't the case, and we thought the language was not mandatory. But upon further review, when you look at the CDC mandate, and we can certainly post this, since we just received this update, legal update, we can certainly post that too on our website for individuals to see. You can't hear me right here? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm trying to make sure everybody can hear. But if you look at page 1 of the CDC mandate, it does have the language around into and within the United States, and it does talk about specifically buses. And so that would, according to our contact at the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction, and then also after our consultation with legal counsel, it does look like that is a requirement, regardless of option 1 or option 2. But that still means, you know, if we went with option 1, you know, that would still be a choice within the full day of the school day. It would be specifically, you know, on the bus.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, could I ask Ms. Austin to restate her suggestion of amendment to the...
Yeah, I'd be glad to. I'd like to make the amendment to option 1 to read that masks are recommended but not required.
Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, sir.
Just for the discussion's sake, I respect the way you worded it, Ms. Austin. To me, it's funny, a lot of times when we've had this happen, information comes in at the last minute and gets thrown to the board to put a twist on it, and something that should be simple, I think, is to say, schools will not require face masks. I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
So there's a motion on the floor for option 1. There's a motion and a second with a friendly amendment to say that we recommend the mask. Is there any other discussion? We are hearing that we're going to have to wear a mask on the bus regardless. I do have one more question about that, Dr. Ellis. Last year, we sat one child per seat unless those children were in a family, which just made the bus routes longer, and it just made it difficult. Are the children going to be able to sit at least two students to a seat regardless?
There's no requirement for us to only have certain individuals per seat, so they would be able to normally ride the bus like they normally would. So there's not, we've encouraged seating charts in case that was something we needed to figure out because of the quarantine requirement. But other than that, there's no requirement around that.
That's a mandate anyway, that the buses have seating charts, correct?
That's right, and that's really needed even for
Right.
other safety reasons outside of COVID-19.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? No? Y'all good? Speak now, forever hold your peace. You good? Okay, Mr. Huss, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna vote. Do you want to vote by name, or do you want to do all of us at the same time? By name. Okay, we'll vote by name. We'll start by Mr. Isley.
Doug Isley voting for option 1, mask optional.
Paul Rakestraw, aye.
Aye.
Say your name.
I know who I am. Vicky McKinney, option 1.
Kimberly McMichael, option 1.
Vicki Austin, option 1.
Bob Wyatt, option 1.
Brandon Huss, option 1. Madam Chair, they're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
I would encourage.
Let's take a break.
A lot of them, we still have a good number of speakers. I don't think they're going anywhere.
So thank you so much, and now we'll move to the second item, if that's okay. And that
Yes,
just looks at the recommendation of the overall plan. What will be taken out is option 2, and then option 1 will be replaced. So option 1 would be there, option 2 would be taken out of the plan, and then that would be what you're voting on at this point.
Did everyone hear that? Option 2 is going to be removed from the plan. Option 1 is the only thing you're voting on.
And it's the overall plan.
Right.
Are there any questions before I ask for a motion?
No.
So can I get a motion?
I make the motion that we remove option 2.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so
Dr.
much.
Ellis. We will move right on to 7.3. Dr. Perkins.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members. Come to you tonight with seeking your approval of our Pearson online option for our e-learning academy. And I'll be glad to answer any questions you have regarding it.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a quick question, Dr. Perkins, and Dr. Shotwell. Will we be, I know the deadline for enrolling in the e-learning.
Yes.
Yeah, Ms. Rakestraw, could you hold on so that we want everybody to be able to hear the question? Go right ahead.
All right. Thank you. On the e-learning academy, the original deadline was April the 30th, 2021. Are we in 21? So anyways, is there any way that that deadline can now be moved to August the 13th in light of some parents truly having a choice?
Currently, there are 53 students that adhere to that deadline, and you see the estimate for that cost is $190,694. For every additional student, it's going to be about $3,600. Pearson has had discussions with us. We actually talked today. They are willing to, take more students. However, it's just a matter of cost. And so that's.
What about grade level when you talk to them? still keeping the 4 through 8?
Grade level is still 4 through 8. They offer a K-12. They're a public-private company. You know, they're selling to anyone. But in conversations with us, they recommend. In fact, all of those online companies that we talked to recommended that K3 is not a good option, and they only recommend K3 if there is a full-time adult / parent that is able to be with that child all day.
And it's my understanding that we did not have a teacher to apply for the e-learning academy. We didn't have any applications for that. So that's why we had to go and outsource it. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just also, the staff, central office staff, alerted everybody. I think we did alert now messages. We did this video that's played over and over and over on the public access channel. Also, it's on Facebook, and it was on the webpage for everybody to see, because I had quite a few people said they didn't know, but the school system did put out quite a few messages for everybody to know they had that option.
Yes, sir. So, Dr. Perkins, I'm hearing you say that they do offer that K3 option. So, is there anything in there that would hold? Is there a way that, I know that we're not offering that. We're not offering K3 right now. Could we offer it through Pearson if there's a parent willing to?
I would just say this.
Just in that true parent choice piece.
Looking at initially we had 125 parents that had an interest. Through that whole process down to April 30th, only 53 kind of followed through the whole process. Mm-hmm. Out of the 53, there are only 3 students out of that 53 that did well on their end of grade test. We really encourage all the principals to reach out to the families, the parents we talked to as well, and encourage them to come back to school, because that's the best option for students. I think we all can agree with that, in-person learning. So, you know, definitely think we take more students. If you're asking me, do I think students would be successful? I do not. I feel they have a better chance of being successful in face-to-face opportunities.
May I?
Yes, ma'am.
So, Dr. Perkins, what you're saying is that how far is it going? 4 through 8. 4 through 8. So do you think they will be successful with e-learning, or, well, I know how I feel. I would want them in the classroom. But do you think they would be successful in this e-learning?
It's hard to say, again, going on last year's experience, looking at the remote option, and looking at how the students overall performed on their EOGs. They were not successful on EOGs. Again, I'm not one to say the EOGs are the end-all be-all. We don't put all of our baskets in one test. I don't think anyone would support that. But it's hard to see much of a difference in outcomes based off what we saw last year.
We just want to make sure that we're meeting their instructional needs as best we can. And I realize that for some, it's a medical reason for doing it.
In fact, Dr. Shotwell, if I could add, most of the parents we talk to, it is a medical concern. I would say more than half the concern is with the parents themselves, not so much with the children. Caregivers like grandparents taking care of kids and just being concerned about bringing something back home. So I think that's definitely the biggest reason we've heard from parents that reach out to us.
May I?
Yes, ma'am.
So will this still be housed at SCORE?
No, ma'am. What we are looking at is every individual school, their base school that they would normally go through, they will be enrolled through that school, and Pearson will provide a teacher that we will treat just like we do the North Carolina Virtual Public School. Right. We'll have that teacher kind of serving as an adjunct teacher at each individual school.
So you'll have one for each school, or one that travels?
There won't be, Pearson is providing the teachers for all of those subjects. So in elementary, they may have one teacher that's teaching all subjects. Because that's typically how elementary does. In the middle schools, they will have a math teacher, an English teacher, a science teacher, a social studies teacher, a physical education teacher, an art teacher. So it'll follow that same model in middle school, just like it will follow that model in elementary.
May I ask one more?
Of course.
if they get into this school and say midway through the year, the parents say, this is not working, are you going to allow them to go back to their home school?
We marketed this that parents were committing to the year. That if they, and I think that's one of the reasons the numbers fell off to 53. The parents did sign a document saying they were committing to the year. And if you look at the cost again, $3,600, that's a lot of money for someone to back out or to.
They're not going to prorate it back.
Right.
No.
You know, we're not getting money back.
Okay. All right.
So can we add, can you state that one more time just for everybody to hear?
That, the cost?
The cost and how the district won't get that money back, but we can't deny the student.
Right, the cost is $3,499 for 4 core classes plus 2 elective classes. And then we're also adding the live tutor access, that a student will have access to a tutor from, I think it's 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., 5 days a week. So that is about $3,600 per student. It's for the year. If a student drops out, we're not getting that money back. So that's definitely an issue to consider.
And Dr. Perkins, if you'll just remind them, the reason it goes 4 to 8 is because between North Carolina Virtual and what we offer, we can meet the needs of a high school student for the most part of what they need.
There are options out there with NC VPS, certainly that would meet those needs. Again, you know, North Carolina Virtual Public School, there's an allotment that every district is given. There's also, you know, some criteria for some of those courses as well. But there are options out there, you know, for students in high school that would like to go for.
Are there any other questions? Any comments? Go ahead.
This is somewhat related. I don't know if Mr. Scott or Mr. Perkins could answer. Have we got to the point yet where DPI has cut back on the amount of teachers we're going to have? Or is that still in place? At one time, we had a pass on it.
I have not heard anything different. They held us harmless for this past year.
Right.
But since the budget hasn't been passed, we don't know if that's the case or not. So we based our allotments out to the schools based on the number of kids that we had, with a little bit of a cushion in there, hoping that that's what it's going to be. And if it's not, then the ESSER funds would take care of it at least for this year, and then it would equalize out going into the 22-23 school year.
Can I add one other thing?
Yes,
There is pending legislation in the Senate that addresses virtual learning. There are several bills out. One would limit the amount of students to be able to enroll to 10% of the district. There's also legislation that would prohibit any kind of virtual learning. In the proposed House version of the budget, it is allowing virtual. So there's lots of legislation that remains to be seen what will happen with that may impact remote instruction.
Can you send me documentation that you have on legislation? Thank you, sir.
Any other comments or questions? So can I get a motion to accept the Pearson Online Learning Academy for remote instruction?
Madam Chair, I make a motion, or I move that we accept the Pearson Online Learning program.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say, I'm sorry, is there any discussion?
I still am questioning whether or not we're going to be able to extend that deadline.
Right.
I don't know, I don't feel like I got an answer, sorry. Yeah.
Because what we're bringing to you is just approval of those 53 students with that amount.
I personally think we should be extending the deadline till at least this coming Friday, the 13th. If you want me to make that a motion.
Are you asking to amend that?
I am asking, that's a good thing, thank you, that's clarity, I appreciate that.
You're quite welcome. Is anybody else? We've got a motion, we've also have a second, we've asked for an amendment. Is anybody willing to? Anything else? You're willing to amend it? Yes. Eye contact, a shake of the head, something.
So you need a second to that amendment, is what you're asking for.
That amendment.
I can't do that.
So Okay, so hang on, let me get this written down here. So we're gonna ask to amend, since we just voted for option 1, to allow students to continue to sign up through August the 13th. Yep. And you're seconding that amendment, Ms. McKinney, is that right? So now, we have a, do we need, I'm just confused. Do I need to start over with this whole vote? I had a motion and a second, and then we amended it. And now I have a second for the
You
amendment.
need a vote on the friendly amendment to my motion.
Can I ask just a point of clarification? Are you asking just for?
Please clarify.
Or are you asking for K through 12, or are you still asking for?
She's
I'm
asking
doing
for 4
4
through
through
8.
8, yeah.
So is it clear as mud?
It's clear as
Clear as
mud.
mud.
That's exactly what it is, yes. He said that I needed to vote
Friendly amendment to
on
my
the
motion.
amendment to those motion. Okay, so now we're gonna vote on the amendment. All in favor for the amendment, say aye. All in favor? Do we need to do that by name? Okay, go ahead. Let's hang on, Brent. We're gonna do that again. Go ahead, Doug. Say your name.
No, please, ma'am.
Okay.
Paula
Mr. Rakestraw.
Rakestraw, aye.
Vicky McKinney, aye.
Kimberly McMichael, aye.
Nelson, aye.
Bob White, no.
So now we have an amendment. We're gonna amend it to extend the deadline to the 13th. Mr. Isley, are you still good to,
I'm confused. I thought that's,
we
I
just
thought we
voted
were.
to the, we just voted for the amendment. Now we've got to vote to do the Pearson online.
Okay, so, I'm confused. I
Right?
thought, I made a motion.
Right?
I made a motion that we accept the Pearson online training.
You made it, so now we got
And
to
then
vote on the whole thing.
Ms. Rakestraw asked for a friendly amendment to, which would change mine. And I voted no, but if it's just for the Pearson online training, I'm voting for it. But I'm not going to vote for the.
You didn't vote for the
I
extension.
didn't vote for the
You didn't vote
extension.
for the extension, so now we're voting for the whole thing, okay? So I need a motion for the whole thing to be, for the whole thing. That's what y'all said you wanted me to do, right?
Exactly, you're right.
Okay, so I need a motion for it.
Okay,
You've already made it once.
I've already made one.
Yep, and Ms. McKinney, you made the second. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. That wasn't there. Do you know what we're doing, Mr. Perkins? Got the Friday, that's right. Thank you very much. So now we will move to 7.4, the Head Start CARES Act funding spending plan.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Shotwell. Ms. Jumper and I are here tonight to talk with you first about the CARES Act carryover. So we want to explain a little bit about why we were asking for this carryover. It's quite an interesting story, but we received our CARES Act for our Head Start as of June 26, 2020. That was last year. But the fiscal year ended on June the 30th, 2020. So those funds were really unavailable at that point. So Ms. Jumper has put together a proposed budget to ask for a carryover and to utilize those funds this year. So I'll turn it over to her.
Thank you, Dr. Shotwell, Madam Chair, thank you for having us here tonight and listening to our carryover request. So like Dr. Corcoran said, the carryover funds were granted a total amount of $174,000, $174,004. Okay, so on 6/26, it was dropped into our account. But we didn't know that we had to do a carryover because our fiscal year ends on the 30th. So we are now, after talking with the program specialist, we found out that, oh, you haven't used any of your funds. So we're now asking, she said, we recommended for us to do a carryover. So we have said for travel, $10,000, equipment, $26,000, contractual, $38,000, supplies, $70,000, and then for other, $30,000, $30,004. So for staff, local travel, our staff travels all over the county, so we have to give them gas mileage, and then we have gas mileages for our vans, so we put that in there. And then during the COVID, we used a lot of mileage because we were doing drop-off meals, we were doing school supplies, we were doing laptops, hotspots for families that were virtual. So then we are also requesting for a cargo van for $26,000. Now, we did get 2 new vans last year. Now, the reason that we're asking for a cargo van, another cargo van this year, is because with these funds, it's because the food carrier that was carrying the food, she retired. She had an SUV. She chose not to use the van, so she retired. The person that is doing the job now has a smaller car and elected not to use her own personal vehicle, which we, that's what we're supposed to do, provide them that transportation. So the van that we had at our site, we let her use. So she goes to Draper, she has to go to Moorhead, pick up the meals for 2 classrooms. That's a lot. It's a big cooler. It's several carriers of food because it's hot food and they have to have like a hot box. And so she couldn't get in her car, so we let her use that. So with that one, we would like to purchase, the van that we have now is a 7-passenger van. Last year we talked with Dwayne Hensley and he said that what he tried to get was one that we could remove the seats. Well, we were not able to do that with the one that we got because of COVID and the delay and what they had, shipped to us. We couldn't remove the seats. And we feel like that, for sanitation purposes, if milk spills, if food spills, it's very hard to clean. So we're asking for a cargo van. So we want to have just, area where we can push it in the back. It's easier for her to get out, put in and then get out. Also, under contractual, we are with $10,000 for, we did create a contract with a Dr. Susie Conley from Greensboro College. She worked with our teaching staff to do remote learning. She worked with them to do STEM kits and really to hone on their skills, professional development with really doing the virtual learning. Parents loved it. The children, the ones that were remote, they were able to get the same materials that the children were doing in the classroom. Also, we have $28,000 is for outdoor learning environment. We are going to contract with someone. With the CARES Act funding, they give you some guidelines on how to spend it. And what they're saying is really hone in on your play outdoor spaces, because we know with COVID, outside is the best. The more space they have, the fresh air that they have, then, so we really need to have a really good, solid outside play area. Because we know whatever they can do in the classroom, they can do outside. Are there any questions so far? Because I know I'm kind of going fast. Okay?
Hold on one second. Yes, go right ahead.
Ms. Corcoran may be able to address this along with Ms. Jumper. Thank you for everything you do, Ms. Jumper. Ms. Corcoran and Ms. Jumper, when we adopted this program from Rockingham County, took over the program, we acquired 2 vans that had been sitting at a Reidsville Senior High for quite some time under the trees collecting dust. And I had called and asked for them to either be repurposed. My thought was to be repurposed or sold off. And they sat there and then we got moved, and I understand there was major problems with them. They had to tow them in. So where are those vans now? And also, another part of this, so I think I understood you correctly. You're saying we're supposed to supply a vehicle, but she was using her van and she's being paid 0.575 cents per mile. Why weren't we letting her use the vans that we had?
Okay,
or did I misunderstand you?
No, you're right, but we did not pay her mileage. And see, she was on staff when Head Start came under the school system, and then that she was just left into that position. And I guess, but she never got mileage for that. She just used her vehicle because she was a custodian at Central, and then this was like her part-time, and then she would pick up the food, take it to the school, and then bring back, and we never gave her mileage.
So are we supposed to be supplying a van per the instructions?
Okay, so we are supposed to have that van, and we are supposed to provide some way to transport that food. The 3 vans that we've had are, as we know, were 25 to 30 years old. And as you said, 2 of those vans became totally obsolete. So at this point, I think they've been working to try to get it on, I'm sorry, it leaves me, the website that they are supposed to be on.
Oh, where I'd recommended putting the DrSalvo
Yes,
quite some time ago?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
And so we're just waiting, but yes, we are supposed to provide that.
I'd like to ask staff and the board, if staff would try to get on that pretty quick, because that's sitting there and they're going down in value daily.
Yes.
So the quicker we can get them on DrSalvo.com, the quicker we can get them sold and get some more money out of them. Please.
And our bookkeeper I think she's already got at least 1. So she's been working on that. There were some issues because with our, when we ordered the van, we didn't get them until like really late. So yes, she's working on that, yes.
Also, if we could get y'all to report back to the board how much funds we make off of that, which goes back into Head Start.
Absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so then we're going to supplies, and we supply all the PPE, masks, cleaning supplies, anything that the classroom needs. We also supply classroom supplies for, the students to do, more activities with, whatever the teachers need. As you know, it's an early childhood environment, they do a lot of hands-on supplies. Janitorial supplies, supplies for our disability department. We work with children with disabilities. We purchase the dial kits, those are the assessment kits, so each teacher could have one, so they would not have to be in, because we cannot offer mass screenings like we used to. We have to do them a little bit further apart, so if the teachers are able to do it, if they have the materials to do it and the kit to do it, it takes a lot of weight off of the disability staff, which is Ms. Andrea Barr. And then our training and technical assistance, we have embarked on conscious discipline. We know that, because of COVID, because of the pandemic, there is some trauma. There will be some trauma, and we will see this when we come into our classrooms. It could be, in the form of challenging behaviors. So we want our teachers to be ready to work with these children. So we have started the conscious discipline training, and now with the $2,000, we're purchasing books for each teacher, and we're going to continue that training.
Good job.
Also, under other, we also have the Office of Head Start has recommended us do health and wellness with our staff, and so we're contracting with a doctor. She's a health and wellness coach, and she's going to be doing some health and wellness with the staff, and then also with parents. So that is, and then, mental health, contract with mental health specialists for children that may need more intensive care. And there was a typo of I left off the $4, but it will be corrected. Okay, so that's it for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Jumper,
Yes,
I'd
ma'am.
like to say something to you. I was so tickled to hear you say that you're going to be using conscious discipline. I am a fan of conscious discipline, and it will help the children when they come back from this experience we've all had. It will give them a place of security, and I appreciate that in you, and I want to thank you for it.
And I'd also like to express my appreciation for you spending time with me on the telephone going over this budget. I asked lots of questions of you regarding that, so I really appreciate those clarifications, and I'm excited about conscious discipline.
We're both conscious discipline.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
Can I make the motion that we approve?
Yes, you can.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign.
We want to just do the second one for next event, so I'll let you speak right through that.
Okay, so we are asking for another carryover, and these are unobligated funds from our operating budget. And we know because of COVID, we had some time out of the classroom. We had some positions that were vacated. So we have funds that are left over, and we do not want to have to send any funds back. So we want to be able to use these funds. So equipment, $97,000, and then other $30,456. So with the equipment, once again, we're asking for another cargo van. And the reason being is because in the Breesville area, as Mr. Isley spoke of, those vans are very old, and we are ready to put them on the .gov site, but we need transportation for it, and even now, like, when school was in, we had to call Lester Rock several times for them to come and crank the van or do something to them. So we really need that second cargo van also. And so that would be the Breesville area. The food carrier, he delivers meals from Moss Street to Lawsonville, which we have 4 classrooms. And then he also takes meals to Elm Grove Church, where we have 1 classroom. And then I wanted to, I put in the budget for a mini bus. It's just like the little mini Head Start buses that we've had. And the reason that we put that there is because we want to be able, we understand in early childhood that hands-on experiences, all kinds of, real-world experiences help children to be prepared for school readiness. What they see, what they feel, what they touch, all their 5 senses really helps them to learn and helps their development. So eventually we want to be able to go on field trips. The bus that we had is very old and it needed a lot of work. It is at the bus garage, but we wanted to get better transportation for these children with the star seats already there, what the child care regulation requires for them to have their, like a car seat. And so this bus will give them that. So we wanted to say, just get a big ticket item so we wouldn't lose this money. And so a bus was the best way to go for our program. So, if there any questions about that? Okay. And then we use the other for fuel and for maintenance for all of our vehicles.
And just for our community's clarification, the Office of Head Start grants federal dollars to the Head Start program. These are not local funds that are used. These are not federal funds that are allocated to the school system. They're allocated specifically to Head Start. So just to be clear to our community so that there's no confusion about where that money is coming from.
You need a motion to approve.
Do.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, 7.6, Dr. Heart. Thank you so very much.
Good evening, Dr. Shotwell, Madam Chair, Board of Education. In October of 2020, we entered into a contract with Triad Roofing Services to install a roof replacement at Reedsville High School on the press box, the men's and women's restroom, and the ticket booth. The cost of this was $16,911.35. That it did include taxes. After talking with Joe Walker and the community and the football athletic program, they are requesting that we install the crow's nest. It's a walk pad and safety rails on the football field house, which is there at the press box. There were cameras that were installed to sort of catch this footage a year ago through Pixelot, to sort of stream the games. But I think it's just part of the culture there. They're used to having this crow's nest. So tonight I am asking approval for us to complete this project for $10,800.
The work will be done by Third Generation Services, which is a local company out of Stoneville. And we've asked for this work to be done quickly. I think the Jamboree is coming up this Friday. I'm not sure if the supplies will be in time, but we are waiting your approval to move forward with this project.
Are there any questions? Go ahead.
Ms. Parks, you had quoted that we did this work last year.
Yes, the
And it was
contract was last year, in 2020,
$16,911.30.
35 cents.
35 cents. I've got a copy of that. It actually was $17,940 because on here, the PO went over due to additional safety work on the crow's nest. I'm in the roofing business. I think we had discussed this. Also, this was brought up because the superintendent had told me that, actually a gentleman that works for me at my company had told him that there was wind damage to the buildings and we could have utilized insurance to pay for the roofs, which I think our deductible is $5,000, which would have dropped the cost down from the $17,940. And then I brought up also why they took the crow's nest out to start with, because it had railing up. And when I went out there to follow up after they were cleaning up the job site, I was told by staff that they were doing away with it because of insurance purposes. So $17,940, which could have been $5,000 if we had turned it into the insurance company. But now we're asking for $10,800 to do the crow's nest again. What we've got on there now is TPO, which is like a rubber membrane. So I'm curious as to why staff, while we had the roof off, we had to replace 5 sheets of plywood, 2x4s and 2x8s. Why don't we just take the railing that was there off, put the new wood down, replace it, and then if there was some insurance issues, put the proper railing up at the time, because by my calculation back then, before prices went up exponentially, we probably could have got out for $3,000. So now we're up to $10,800 more.
So the City of Breesville Inspections Department has made these calls as to what we needed to do with this repair. And so whatever the City of Breesville Inspections Department stated, that is what we have done here. And I've also had our engineer, who's Ron Coleman, take a look at this also to provide feedback. And he did that free of charge. And then EC also brought out the city of the inspectors to take a look to give us exactly what we needed to do. My goal was just to dry in, and the community is upset that this did not, this part did not happen. I thought that putting in these pixel lock cameras would sort of solve the issue by providing that footage that they needed, which we wouldn't have to incur this cost. So at this time, this is what the community is asking. It is your decision if you want to move forward with this or not. We will certainly do, we'll work at the pleasure of you.
You need a motion?
I need a motion.
I make the motion that we fix the crow's nest at Breesville High for $10,800.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, just with the caveat that I think we need to do a better job squeezing our money and addressing this stuff at the time, because I've got documentation saying otherwise, and the board wouldn't provide the information about reports or anything. But I'll second the motion from Ms. Austin.
Okay. All those in favor say we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? No. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We will move right on. Okay, so now we have 7.7. Thank you, Dr. Parks. 7.7 is our calendar. So we really don't have anything to put up on the website for this. I asked about this earlier in the week. We have a board meeting, a regularly scheduled work session on August the 23rd. Do you want to do this presentation, or do you want me to?
I think you're doing great.
Okay, good. So that is the very first day of school, and to have a board meeting on the very first day of school is chaotic for pretty much for the whole school, for the district in and of itself. There's always bus issues, there's issues for administrators, there's issues for parents. So we were.
Mondays.
And we have a Monday, we have a remaining week to be able to move it. So we're asking to move the work session from August the 23rd to August the 30th.
I will make that motion.
I was second. Okay, we all will.
We all do. Over on this side.
Who do I have who do I have the second from?
Sound like Ms. McKinney was.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, 7.8 is the proposal for a board member to be able to participate remotely for medical reasons. Would you like to go ahead, Mr.?
Do you want me to read
Please.
what we have?
That'd be great.
Okay, and I also had a comment.
Okay.
I'll make. So I move that we amend it, that we consider the opportunity for Mr. Heart to attend remotely for the duration of this calendar year as needed for medical reasons. And during the time I've been on the board, I had back surgery and Isabel had back surgery, and we both had to basically do that. So it's nothing terribly unusual.
I second.
Okay.
Draw.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
I want to be there. I was want to be there tonight with my family. Almost to the point of emotional tears. They saw how much pain I was in. And I just can't get any relief. The thought of sitting there for 4 hours, I think if I came to the board meetings, I would absolutely just have to line the floor with pillows. So hopefully I'm not being under the care of a orthopedic surgeon right now, and we'll know more as time goes on. Things go slow. But my hope is that we get me in and probably have, in all likelihood, surgery, and I return as quickly as possible. All of you know how much I love traveling, and I'm always on the road, so this is putting a real impact in every aspect of my life. So I'm asking for support from my colleagues to help me out here while I deal with this issue.
Thank you, Mr. Huss. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any questions, any further discussion? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. 7.9 is...
May I say thank you to everyone? I really appreciate it.
Yeah, say it again. I'm putting the microphone close to the phone.
I just want to thank everybody. I really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So now we have action item 7.9, and this is the ESSER funding where we amended, pulling it from the consent agenda. Mr. Isley, would you like to explain this?
Yeah, this is just the funding, how it's distributed out as far as learning materials and professional staff, equipment, I guess you'd say. It was just a large amount of money, and I just wanted that to be separated so the community can see it, being around $2,311. So nothing confrontational with this. I just wanted to be out in public.
You want to make the motion?
I move that we accept the selection of infrastructure material using the funds available there, using DrSalvo funds.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. So we will now move to our reports and discussion items. Dr. Shotwell.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Basically, what we're speaking to you with tonight is what we're speaking with you tonight about is the electronic ticketing. If you noticed, this past year when we were going to several locations, you had to have a code or you had to buy tickets ahead of time. Part of the reason for that was that we had limits on the number of people that could come into athletic events. And so Alamance County, Guilford County, Winston-Salem, Forsyth, and also West Stokes, they're the only ones in Stokes County. They had that for being able to limit folks to be able to come into ball games. What it does, it's a cashless system. So people would order their tickets online, much like you do now. When you order concert tickets and, well, lots of different things. I know when I was at a baseball game the other week, it said quite plainly at the beginning, no cash, cards only. Anyway, we've been working on this for about a year. Our athletic directors at the high school have been working on this because one of the things that we also look at is the security. Not that we've had any problems with this, but the less people that touch money, the less likely it gets messed up or gets missing. Also, it takes time. Even when people come through, we're given change. I can remember, especially the first several years here, that it was not until towards the end of the first quarter that, whether it was at Reedsville or Rockingham, before all the fans were able to get into the stadium because everybody was coming to watch the game. And this way, they're coming in, they scan it, boom, we're going to go with it. We met with the bookkeepers last week, the middle and high school bookkeepers, and what we're doing is that we're going to ask that at least on the initial front end of this, that we are going to take both cash if people come to the ball game and they buy tickets the traditional way, but we're also going to promote the electronic ticketing. So when people come there, we want them to see the signage. We're going to have signage out there explaining to them, this is what's coming. October the 1st for our high schools at least will be the last time that we take cash options, because they can go by the school and get a ticket that way too. We're working on that process there. There's going to be people at the ball game so that if people have questions, they can ask. To see how they do that. I mean, I've seen people at flea markets, or garage sales using, point of sales item. And that's kind of what we're doing with the credit card. And it all goes straight to the school account. All the reconciliation forms that they have to do for our audits are all on there. We know exactly the folks that purchased the tickets and how much they paid. So I just know this: when we've had gates of $18,000 to $20,000, when you have those big football games, that's a lot for somebody, because if the school doesn't have a safe, then we're taking that and dropping it at the bank and a night deposit. They go back on Monday, they pick it up, bring it back to the school, and they count it. I mean, I walked into the bookkeepers at some of the high schools on that following Monday, as they had a big gate, and they're counting and counting and counting. Something's not adding up right, because you're looking at the number of tickets, your ticket number, what it started with, what it ended with, and your change all has to match up. And we're going to get sometimes about $2,000 in ones, because everybody coming to the ball game, now that the price is about $6 or so, everybody's breaking a 10 or a 20. So we just really felt strongly about this. We'd really like to try it. Our middle school folks, there's some apprehension there, but I think at least for the first, for them, I think we could go through their fall season doing both and evaluate it at that point, and then decide if we're going to do it for like the winter sports. And it also cuts down on the number of people that you have to have working at the gates. And
The staff.
yeah, because the staff volunteers to do those gates. They're not getting paid.
Well, they're sort of voluntold.
Well, yeah, everybody should give their fair share. That's exactly right. So,
Dr. Shotwell.
Yes, ma'am.
How much will this cost?
Well, I am going to turn that to Annie. Where is she at?
From my understanding, the district is not incurring a cost.
Yeah.
The cost is passed on to the fan in a convenience fee.
It's built into the fee structure. And they're going to let us have some printers without having to pay for those.
Well, no, I was just going to make a comment on slide 13 that says it's simple to get started. There's free onboarding, no setup fees, no monthly or annual costs.
That is correct. Yeah. And I will say this too. One of the things that I think that's going to help us in the long run, and you can see there's options for season tickets if they want to do that. Lots of different ways that you can utilize the system. And also, if we want to do a play or band concert, let's say that we're charging money for that, you could use the same system for that as well. So it's multi-purpose for the school. I feel like that we're doing it right because we're asking for all the schools to use the same platform and the same program. There are some other districts that it's like the Wild Wild West. And there's 3 or 4 different companies that offer this. And each one has both good and bad, and we feel like this is the one that has the best for us. But I just thought that was interesting when we were asking for guidance from some of the districts that are using it. They said, well, whatever the school chose. I just couldn't believe that, but that's what they're doing. I mean, they're using Spigot, GoFan, Hometown, and what's another one? Is there a 4th one? Was that it?
There's a 4th one, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's not widely used.
And you can see on slide, I don't know what, the one that shows the football field, it says Worcester and JCU, John Carroll.
What side is that?
It's about halfway down. Keep going.
I can see the football.
Right there.
Where?
Right there, to the left.
This?
Yes. Yeah, that's it. So let's say, well, I hope it never happens again, but if we had to do distancing, we could assign a seat using the ticket piece here and have that already built in. Same thing you can see over to the left when you're doing concerts or you're doing plays at the schools, you can use that as well. And honestly, the Theater Guild already does that with our seats, with their system that they have. Because when you order, you go online and you order a particular seat. And when you get there, that's the seat that you're going to.
So all of the fees are built into the ticket price?
To the ticket price, yes ma'am.
There are no additional fees beyond that?
Dr. Shotwell, comment.
Sure.
So, good evening, Madam Chair, board members. The ticket price is whatever the conference says. So $7 for a football game. Then the online fee is $1 on top of that plus 2%. So it's minimal fees that are passed on to the ticket recipient, to the purchaser.
2% is about what the average is for people when they're using point of sales as a business for using a credit card machine. A lot of them are at 1.9, 1.5, depending on what bank you're with or what service you use.
Yeah. I may have missed this because I was trying to jot down information. Off of this system, does the North Carolina High School Athletic Association get any of this money?
No.
None at all. Okay. Thank you.
And this system also works in conjunction with the arbiter system, which is what we use to pay for our officials. It's a statewide program that all of us use to pay our officials. Those of you who might officiated about maybe 20, 25 years ago, that if you showed up and you're supposed to be Doug Isley, but Doug Isley had to go to another ball game, and John Smith is here, they would just kind of write the line over one name and put John Smith in there, and that started becoming an issue with auditors about 10, 15 years ago. And so this way, if the right person doesn't come up, we can make sure that they get paid, but just not right then. So it goes straight to them. It prints a check out for them, sends it to the official.
Yeah. Do you have any additional questions? Anything else on this? No. Thank you, Dr. Shotwell.
Thank you, ma'am.
So now we will, I guess, board chair comments are next. I just want to say thank you again for everybody that's here. We are going to take a quick recess and we will,
Can we read it?
no, I want to ask a question first. I know that we're doing our, I know that it says we're going to do our public comments first. Do y'all want to still rock on
Oh,
with
that's
closed
right, we
session?
need a
We've still got several people waiting.
suggestion, Madam Chair.
I would love one.
Petition the audience and raise of hands, how many people are still here that would want to speak.
We need an upstairs count too,
Yeah, an
right?
upstairs count.
Aren't they upstairs? Do we have more people upstairs?
There are no more individuals upstairs in the upstairs board.
So we have one, yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Okay, so we need a,
7.
Okay, hold them up
Can
one
I
more
get
time
a-
so we get it. 7.
can I get a motion for that?
You want
So
to go
let
ahead?
us-
Yeah, I make a motion to go ahead and allow the 7 remaining speakers to speak.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, so at this
May I
time,
ask a quick question? Mr.
Yes,
Herman, we
ma'am.
don't need to reread the policy, do we? Perfect.
okay, so at this time, we are going to continue with our public speakers. So, next is Mr. Stanley. Yes, sir.
I don't know who that is. Never seen it.
First time in a while. Year and a half, exactly.
It's on that little stand right there in
You're
front of you.
Okay. Well, anyway, Bob Stanley, Stoneville, North Carolina. And up front, I'm gonna get to change subject just a little bit. The Rotary Club of Stoneville Fall Festival. We're gonna try to have it this year on September the 25th, that's last Saturday. I know it don't, well, it does fit in schools, I just wanna add a little more to it. We are a funded device for the elementary, media, summer and backpack programs in Stoneville. Rockingham County Bible Education Council, and this is a good thing, folks, we do donate to it. Start Alzheimer's research, and I'll be 83, not far from now, so that really matters when you get older. And Generation for Hope and Salvation Army for Christmas, we contribute to that. Stoneville Elementary, 3rd grade dictionaries, and these children, some of them help. They've got the name on them and so forth. It's a good thing. And American Cancer Society and the Rockingham County Foundation, summer food program for children too. And this fall festival is our biggest fundraiser. If we don't do good there, something has to go. We also pay the water bill, electric bill for the Boy Scouts. There's a whole lot going on, it's a good subject. And I just want to talk about that up front. And on the other end of it, we'll go back to COVID. I do like history, folks, and we need to read the history of this country about things going on as far as COVID. George Washington done it in 1777. Smallpox. He had 40,000, I think, they inoculated them for one vaccine. But he said it was a bigger threat than the sword or the enemy. Sick soldiers cannot fight battles. And going back to Rotary again, Rotary has been a big player in the eradication of polio worldwide. Every dollar we raised or donated at the foundation, $2 was added up to a certain point by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And it's eradicated in every country now except Afghanistan, Pakistan, and I think Nigeria's got a question mark. And I'm about to run out of time here. Actually, he'd talk a long time on this subject. I do think history will tell you a whole lot, and the subject we're talking about, vaccines do work. I don't understand why the FDA hasn't done full approval for this vaccine. I guess they got their reason. That's bothering a lot of people. And again, thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Our next speaker is Ron Price. He did leave. Okay, so our next speaker is Malcolm Allen.
Thank you. First, I want to express my appreciation to former President Trump for giving us the COVID vaccine. History will probably record this as his proudest achievement. No telling the thousands of lives that were saved by his rapid response team action. He further showed his confidence in his product by its use in his own personal family. His closest confidant, Lindsey Graham, stated he probably wouldn't be here today without Trump's vaccine. After losing over 600,000 American lives, we managed to curb this deadly disease with vaccines and masks. Now we have evidence that the disease attacked children and used them as carriers to older adults. Some have said that giving blood is the gift of life, but I say we must include Trump's vaccine as a gift of life. 95% of the people being hospitalized have not been vaccinated. Vaccines and masks are our two greatest weapons in this battle. Why take away one? Shall we gamble our children's health against our misinformed ideology? If we are wrong, your children are uncomfortable. But if you are wrong, some may be dead. So why gamble? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Marsha McDaniel. Rhonda Stanley.
Hello, my name's Rhonda Stanley, I live in Reading, North Carolina. I know you've got plenty of my emails up in Eagle and all of you constantly, I think, past week. Really not much to say. I think everybody touched on how they felt, and I personally have a grandchild in school that I went to Rockingham County Schools myself. My kids went to Rockingham County Schools and graduated from McMichael. I mean, I support you guys and everything you do, and I appreciate the decision that you did come to. I always felt that I worked in the medical field. I'm not oblivious to COVID being a serious thing, but I also believe in freedom of choice. And while they're giving you a choice, I'm glad that you, in turn, gave the parents a choice. So, thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Robbie Smith. Is he left? Okay. Our next speaker is Meredith Macy.
I just wanted to tell y'all, I wanted to stick around here and tell you that I'm very happy with what y'all done tonight and that I've got your back. If somebody says that, you made the wrong decision, we've all made a lot of wrong decisions, but it's not going to be said because we're standing firm on what we did. We've got boldness, we're bold, we're courageous. We've got to use the fruits of the Spirit. That little girl that left here tonight that had on a mask, that was worried about her kids. Well, I'm worried about her kids too. I love her kids too. When she was on the way out, I held her hand and I said, I am praying for you and your kids. That's what we got to do. We got to stop stabbing people. Because that's the enemy.
And you're falling for it. Some people are falling for it, and I see it. My eyes are open. My eyes are so open right now. And it's important to go across that line. Yes, I am standing on the affirmatives. I'm a dental hygienist. My job is prevention. That's what kind of common sense. I've been raised with the Bible as my belief. I've got common sense and knowledge from where I went to be a dental hygienist. You brush and floss, it takes care of your teeth. You eat healthy, it takes care of your body. And it don't always work, but most of the time it does. And if we can just be kind and nice to other people and not slander them, maybe then they'll see the light. Because sometimes we yell and we argue and we fuss and fight, and we do it sometimes at our house too. But I've been working on my house, and if everybody can go home and work on their house, and then our kids can go to school and be together, vaccinated, unvaccinated. Right now, I'm going on prevention. I want to prevent this thing by just using my common sense, and I don't want my kids to have to wear the mask. They got a better chance of being struck by lightning. My little boy was riding his little four-wheeler around the other night. I was worried, but he had a better chance of falling off then. He's going into Spanish immersion. He needs his mouth to talk. He can't have a mask covering it up. And it's very important, and I just am very thankful that y'all have made the right decision tonight. And if anybody, goes up against y'all, you know what? I got your back. And I hope all these people that wanted you to vote that way, I hope they have your back too. Because you deserve it. Thank you for being bold and courageous.
Thank you for your comments. I might not get this last name right. Robert, is it Reddick?
You said it perfectly. Nice job. German, that actually means radish. Funny story, I won't waste my time on it. Germany, when we travel freely. Robert Reddick, I live in Stoneville in NC 135. I don't think my appointment to Rockingham County, I don't think it's been approved yet by the board, but hopefully soon I'll be starting at Moorhead High School as a math teacher. I have a few notes. I don't want to waste a whole lot of your time speaking. I'm terribly nervous as a speaker, so I'll sing instead. If you smile at me, I can't sing, sorry. I will understand, because that is something everybody everywhere is in the same language. Does anybody know that one? It's bringing the smiles back. As a teacher, the thing that I missed the most, and the first thing I learned when I was being a practicing teacher, was to smile. And the mask took that away. And it took the joy away from being in school, as we heard so many parents and community members express that students weren't enjoying their time at school. Some even said they began to hate school. That's not a good thing. We spend so much time of our lives in school. How would you feel if you hated 8 hours a day? That's tough. I want to come in support of also all the first line workers, the heroes, who for over a year were forced to go to work without a vaccine, and now the governor's saying, if you don't take it, you don't have a job. That's pretty scary as an employee of the state of North Carolina, that many people are being coerced into literally putting something in their body. Whatever it is, I don't know what's in it. Maybe somebody in here knows what's in it. I don't. I think more time needs to pass before you could even consider having that conversation. So I hope, this act of civil disobedience, one of the most important books in American history and literature, I think this was an act of civil disobedience on whatever scale. So thank you for joining the 50-some other counties in North Carolina that have said, we're going to give the choice back to parents. There's the one group that wants to force things upon other people, and then there's the group that I support that say, do what you want with your mask, with your injection, whatever, that's fine. I'm not going to try to force people to take off their masks. So it's glad that parents now have the choice. Hey, I have a master's degree in e-learning and instructional technology. I've got over 7 years' experience abroad, giving professional development to thousands of educators from many different countries around the world, professional development on instructional technology and e-learning. So it was interesting to hear this. Last thing, 20 minutes is not enough recess time for our kids. I got a first grader. I couldn't believe there was only 20 minutes. The most dangerous place now is indoors, and they're only outside for 20 minutes. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your comments. Our next speaker is Maria Rudd. She gone? Terry Atkins.
I'm very thankful for your decision. I live in Madison, Terry Atkins. Oh, well, most of these people, I think their kids are starting in August. Mine are already started, and I'm going to get very emotional. 100% disabled veteran. I'm raising 4 of my grandchildren. I have 5 children that deal with school, grandchildren that deal with school right now. Tomorrow morning, one of my grandchildren is going to cry because he has to put his mask on. Another one, my baby that I live with, that's with me, he's got a runny nose. I'm instructed from the phone call that I have to put the mask on my child before he gets out of the van to save time so we can do this. Although outside they don't have to put that mask on. So he walks up to the door with his mask on and he doesn't need to. That's just, it might be seconds, but it's time spent without that mask where he's getting fresh air. And he's not keeping that carbon monoxide. And I've got documentation supporting everything that I'm going to tell you. 20 minutes is all that mask is good for, whether it's cloth or surgical. 20 minutes. Because by that time, the mask gets wet for moisture, it expands, and the particles can go through. He's not changing his mask every 20 minutes. According to the CDC, proper thing to do with your mask is not wear it on your armband. He's instructed at resource to take that mask and put it on his arm and go outside and play on that playground. Hands all over the place, hauling dirt and everything. Then he has to put that mask back on to go inside to his room. Then, and when I go to pick him up, they're standing outside. What's wrong? That friggin' mask, and I'm sorry, is on his face again. He's outside. There's hardly any kids there. He could have that mask off. That's, again, just precious seconds that he's got, minutes, that he's got with that mask off his face. I don't know when this takes effect. I'm assuming it starts in August. But tomorrow, my kids still have to be with that mask on their face. And then I do think one more thing. I kind of think, and I don't know about how you guys feel, a lot of us showed up, and I know it's policy, and I think for you to vote before you hurt everybody out here is crap. Because you're telling every one of us who's still in this room that what we have to say is not important, unless you're going to vote a second time, because that is not okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Mary Ryan.
Mary Ryan, Breedsville, mother of a student and also a nurse. In the medical professions, we've been wearing masks for decades. We know all about masks. Option 1, optional masking, clearly allows for significant infection transmission risk since the COVID Delta variant is highly transmissible. If option 1 passes, which you've done, the board is legally obligated to provide an immediate online schooling option for students from day 1 because public school is compulsory. And option 1 places students and their families knowingly in the wake of a serious health threat by waiving the simplest form of protection, a mask. This board can't legally force students or teachers back into school with unmasked people during a pandemic. The board has both legal and statutory obligations to provide a safe environment. Students have rights, teachers have employee workers' rights based on safety, not one where basic precautions are intentionally neglected. Option 1 will lead to school closures, to online schooling, and to possible litigation. It's legally illegitimate, constitutes neglect of the basic duties of the school board. Option 2 would have been better, universal masking on the basis of ethics and safety. Don't listen to politicians and preachers on matters of science. It's time to listen to the CDC, the North Carolina DHHS, and to doctors and scientists and noted experts on the front lines of COVID, not just anybody. They advise the public based on risk reduction and the reports of legitimate research studies. Rockingham County has a COVID vaccination rate of only 39%. It's not the time to make choices based on Facebook memes or to emphasize the individual rights of extreme people over sensible people desiring basic risk mitigation and prevention. The students' right to be collectively safe in school is the highest priority. Yet the collective safety of RCS is in question, with some here thinking that individual rights are more important than the safety of all. Students have contact with various circles of people on a regular basis. Infections easily catch a free ride on them throughout the public domain and back into the RCS school system. Masking greatly reduces infection transmission risks in every setting, along with hand hygiene and social distancing. Masking is safe. Masking makes sense. These are facts. A pandemic is not the time to get emotional, stomp feet, or demand individual rights. It's time to think calmly and logically and responsibly about the safest and lowest risk approach, which was universal masking option 2. Isn't it time for a little more human decency and a lot less selfishness?
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Mark Morpheus. Yes, sir.
My name is Mark Morpheus. I live at 224 Patricia Lane in Stokesdale. If everyone would take a moment, and not right now, to Google the definition of expert, I don't think it will include one who doesn't make mistakes or is flawless. There have been a lot of experts here tonight. I'm not an expert in the field of science or medicine, but I am an expert, and I'll explain that in a minute. Tonight and all across the last several months, we've heard people make poster childs out of the one oddity of the one who died or was unfortunate, or the ones who survived, and different things. I think we've got to be careful not to make poster children out of the rare occurrences, one way or the other, on this topic. But the experts showed up tonight, and they lined this parking lot. They took up every available spot. I had to park at the very end of the parking lot. They crowded the upper floors of this building tonight. They crowded this room and the adjoining rooms. The parents, the grandparents, the experts were here. They're not flawless. They're not perfect, but they showed up because they're experts. And you're sitting here tonight as experts in your field to hear our voices and our concerns. I'm not here to be judged as being selfish or unconcerned because I choose not to wear a mask. I'm not here to be judged because I'm pro this, pro that. I'm here to say that my children, my grandchildren have the options and choices, and we need to be respectful one to another. My grandchildren deserve the right to go to school without a mask. We've heard every reason for or against it tonight, but you're going to make this decision in a few minutes, and the choices will be final. That being said, I just want to say thanks to the parents and grandparents who did show up tonight to show support, not only for the job that you do, but for each other. And I hope that this is a turning point for the support for you as a school board and the involvement of parents in Rockingham County to show support and get involved. It was far too late. It's regretful that it came to this for this to happen, but it's here. That all being said, the parents are really the experts in their individual homes. There's a lot of differences that are made from one home to another about the way we view the mask or the politics or the science. If you each one took a moment and Googled right now and asked, who are the medical experts that agree with me, we would each one get different answers. And if you watch your phone long enough, the answer would change in a few days, just because Fauci will change his mind in a few days, and so will others. So I'm not going to stand here tonight and say, oh, well, you're right or you're wrong. Just Google and ask, because your phone's listening to you. Ask who the medical experts are that agree with you, and we'll all get different answers. But you'll get the one that you want to align with, and you'll agree with it. I think we each got to recognize we need our choices. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Chris Carey. Sean Carey. Kayla Woodward. Ed Piotrowski. So, okay, that's the end of my list. Has everybody spoken that came to make a public comment? Thank you all so much for being here tonight and for sharing your thoughts with us. So this concludes the end of our public comment section. We will now take a 10-minute recess and go into closed session. Mr. Isley, would you please read the statute before we do this?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, in accordance with General Statute 143(3)(18)(11), I move that we go into closed session in order to adhere to the following subsections within Section A, 1 and 6, to preserve confidentiality and specific employee considerations.
Is there a second?
That was nice.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Yeah.
We'll recess for 10
45
minutes.
years
I'll
of
set it on
working my butt off.